Hey there, welcome to Revved Up Reflections for this Sunday. Today I'm just going to talk a little about putting custom bikes together. I'm just going to use this as an example. I didn't put this together, somebody else did. It's basically a soft tail. Well, it is a soft tail frame, S&S engine, whatever other components are on it. But, looks cool. Rides like a rigid mount soft tail does, or Evo style engine soft tail, solid rigid mount engine. Some things when you're doing custom bikes, you're going to start off bare frame. Let's say you got a pilot parts, everything goes on the bike. So best thing to start off bare frame and just start assembling everything together to make sure everything's going to fit right. Before you paint anything, do your wiring harness layout first. Put the front end on, put the swing arm on, put the wheels, brakes, everything, so you have a rolling chassis. Or not, put the engine and transmission in. That's a big one, to make sure that the engine actually lines up with the transmission and sits in there flat. A lot of times these aftermarket frames, the engine mounts are off slightly, or transmission mounts, something's usually off slightly. And nothing sucks worse than nicely powder coated or painted frame, and you're going back together with it, and everything's off, an eighth of an inch or a quarter inch or whatever. It's off. Gas tank mounts are off. Steering stop is wrong. Whatever. So best thing to do is basically assemble the whole bike. I'd even say get it running. Assemble the whole thing. Get it at least running where you can ride it a little bit. And then I'm not talking about ride it far. I'm talking you do a 10, 15, 20 mile shakedown on it, or whatever. And then tear it apart, label everything out. Label everything, tear it back apart, and then do your powder coating or painting or whatever you're going to do to the frame and the oil tank and whatever else. It's just easier than trying to have to cut and weld stuff after it's already been, especially powder coating, after it's already been powder coated. Paint, you can kind of fudge it because it's easier with paint. Powder coating, you can't really cut stuff off. It's a pain in the butt to get the powder off and do any kind of welding. And then if you paint back over top of it, looks horrible. So try assembly first. Or what I do is, what I like to do, get it, get everything perfect. If you've never done one, assemble everything, gas tanks, carburetor, anything that's going on the bike, assemble it, wiring harness especially, and then go back through it. Now, as an example, on this bike here, which I am going to have to weld on the frame, going to have to weld a few places on it and move some stuff around. So I'm not really too worried about the finish of the frame. I painted stuff that I cleaned up here a little bit for right now, just to keep the rust from coming back. But this thing here, because I am having to weld the seat loop back on here, weld the frame up for the seat, and a few other places on here, it would be best to do everything like I'm doing on this. I'm going to do everything on here, get it running so you can ride, so I can ride it some, or the boy can ride it some, to break it in. And then later on, once everything's shaken down, riding wise, we could go back and rip it down and powder coat, do whatever. I do have a powder coating rig, and I have done a lot of powder coating in the past. It's been years since I've done any, but I did enough of it at one time that you'll never forget it, or I'll never forget it. So same kind of thing. Yeah, this ain't a show bike, so, but still, same thing. You'd want to do everything on it, ride it, before you ever went back and powder coated anything or painted. I know it's got had some places on the frame up here that were rusted around the welds over here, especially right over here where the key switch was, and that guy had a key fob and it was rubbing the paint off here, or powder coat or whatever it was, rub right through it. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, you're going to get everything the way you want it: wiring harness, whatever, seat, front end, before you ever actually assemble it. Now we're doing this one backwards because it was already assembled, and basically needed to get the engine back together and fired up, and it does run. Still have to break it in. Had to rebuild the transmission on it with first gear shift fork. So this one's actually a little backwards. If it's a running bike, you're not so much worried about crap like that, as far as paint and wiring harness or whatever. But to be perfect, we would get this thing running, get it looking decent, all welding done, strip it back down, sandblast the frame, and then powder coat it, put it back together. As a little hint, when you're taking engine in and out on something that's powder coated or painted, either or, you're usually going to hit the frame up here or over here or down underneath. You're going to hit the frame, period. Big twin style, metric cruiser, pretty much anything you're doing, you're going to mar the frame. So what I do is take, especially for the down tubes here, I'll take some old garden hose. Garden hose works better. I've tried foam, and the foam gets torn and doesn't work real good. Garden hose though, I've got some somewhere around here. You cut you some pieces, split it lengthwise, so you can slide it over the frame rails at the bottom or the frame rails at the front. Just to keep from engine from hitting. If it does hit, you ain't gonna harm a garden hose. They're pretty thick. They're pretty tough. Most of them are. Works better than tape or foam. Stuff always tears. So garden hose works really well. Anyway, that's about all I got for this one. Didn't have a whole lot planned out. Same as every Sunday, trying to figure out what I'm gonna talk about, and that was about what been on my mind all day long, pretty much. So that's usually what I'm going to talk about. Anyway, we got Thanksgiving coming up this week. For whatever reason, somebody decided that Thanksgiving needs to be moved to the end of the month instead of third Thursday. Excuse me, the third Thursday of every November has always been Thanksgiving Day ever since I've been alive. And for whatever reason, somebody decided that it needs to be the last weekend of November for whatever reason. I don't know who makes those decisions, but it's kind of screwy. Anyway, hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving in the U.S. Get together, eat a lot of food, drink a lot, watch football, whatever you guys do. Everybody take care, and that's all I got. That's all I'm saying. Pay attention to detail. Try assemble it as much as you can. Especially if you've never done one, you don't know what you're really looking for. Put everything together first before you go and paint anything. What it boils down to. If you've done it a bunch of times, you still want to at least put the transmission and engine in there and check that the frame's lined up. We won't get into that on this. I'm just saying, check things out when you're putting it together. And hope everybody has a great holiday, great Thanksgiving, whatever. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Really do.